whatever the category is doing, you do the opposite.
Hi. Welcome back to Wild Business Growth. This is your place to hear from a wild entrepreneur turning wild ideas into wild growth every Wednesday. And I'm your host, Max Brandstetter. You can learn more at maxpodcasting.com. Today's guest for episode 354 is Dr. Kathrin Hamm. Kathrin is the founder and CEO of Bearaby, the maker of unbelievably comfortable weighted blankets and a whole assortment of other home wellness products. In this episode, we talk naps, including the best nap of Kathrin's life, and we talk hugs. Naps and hugs and Spätzle. It is Kathrin. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Dr. Kathrin Hamm, founder and CEO of Bearaby. This is one of the most comfortable interviews and coziest and snuggliest interviews that you'll ever hear. Kathrin, so excited to talk to you and learn all things weighted blankets and beyond. Thanks so much for joining. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. Doing well.
Of course. So we're all recording this draped in our Bearaby No, I'm just kidding. But before we get to what the company is today and the story behind that, can you share the story of the best nap of your life, that life-changing nap you had?
Yeah, happy to share that because I'm actually usually not a good sleeper at all. Like I was even as a child, like waking up at night or like just a light sleeper overall. So then like when you have this like, there's this visual of the bear coming out, like you don't know who you are, where you are, how long you slept. So I was actually back in India then. I was working for the World Bank and I was traveling a lot to different places and kind of being always a light sleeper, that like really had put me over the edge. Kind of you're flying into Bangladesh and then you're 5 hours on the road and you're flying back and you just like not only jet lag but you have chronic insomnia. So that's when I was looking for like different products that are in the market and tried really everything. And then I came across weighted blankets. At that point, like no one heard about it, knew about it. It was like a medical product that I found in a German pharmacy. So it took 6 weeks to arrive in my like little apartment that I had in Mumbai. And I got this like orange beanbag, like orange blue, filled with like these loud beats. And I'm like, that's a awful thing. Why would you even like sleep under something like this? But then I'm like, why don't I just try it on? And kind of, it was like 15 pounds, like really heavy. So Saturday afternoon, I didn't have anything on my schedule. After lunch, I just put it on and I literally pass out and I slept for 4 hours. And it's one of those naps where you literally, you wake up and you don't know who you are and like, where am I? It was such a good deep sleep, and I never had that before. And I was like, okay, that's the solution for like all my sleep problems. I just need this heavy bean bag and I just need to put weight on my body. And kind of was this aha moment where I'm like, I want to have such a product, or this is like where I'm like, okay, there's something really like special about it. That was probably like the best nap. I think I still had like a couple of good naps, but I think looking back, that's probably been one of the best naps of my life.
This is hitting way too close to home because I need a 4-hour nap today. Our daughter, Jamie, at the time of this recording, is fighting an ear infection. And she's been pretty good, but last night she had us up from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And it was just one of those nights where like every time you put her down, it's like, nope. That nap sounds pretty damn good right now. How did it feel? Like when you woke up from that nap, what was going through your mind when you kind of finally got that sleep that your body so needed?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people who like sleep through the night including my husband, like don't understand is how it feels when you wake up, like it's 2 a.m. and then you look at your watch and it's 3 a.m. and then you're getting stressed out. It's like, I need to sleep, I need to sleep. So it's a constant stressor in your life. And then it's like 4 a.m. and you're like, okay, now I can just stay up, and you're just kind of your, like, I don't know if if you have a sleep tracker, but if you're kind of, your body kind of sleep scores like 30, 40, and it's just like you feel like in a fog the whole day, and it just starts affecting you. I mean, like, good night of sleep, it changes everything, right? It's just like life changing. It's, you wake up, you have energy, you kind of can, you hear what the other person opposite of you is actually saying, you can listen. Yeah, I mean, it was like this, and I didn't had like such a good sleep for a long time. It was a big difference. Just kind of not only sleeping through the night, being like, okay, well, I don't have to worry. It's like another thing is like you already, how you say, like you're stressed out going to sleep. It's hitting 10 p.m. and you're like, oh my god, it's gonna be a rough one. I wish it would have already been morning. I don't know if you know, like these nights when you're trying to like sleep, but no matter what you do, you will have a terrible night. And then like it's a big, yeah, it's a relief really for me.
Yeah, you hit that's I think one of the biggest stressors of the whole thing is what you said about the whole, like I think when I struggle sleeping at night, I try not to look at the clock that often, because every time you do, you're right. It's like an hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, and then there's that moment of like, at what point are we just up?
Yeah, exactly. And you take your phone out and you're kind of like scrolling, and then your brain is fully awake and it's kind of ruined already.
Well, let's talk about the opposite of ruined. Let's talk about something that improves the lives of people on a daily basis. So let's get to your company, Bearaby. There's a little foreshadowing there because obviously that nap was pretty foundational, and the realization of what these weighted blankets can do. But how did you take that jump from like, wow, these are really cool blankets, to actually this could be like a product we sell to people and make a company around?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while because I grew up in Germany, so I had like studied, I had like my master's degree, I had my PhD, and then I had just landed like a job at the World Bank where that I liked, and I was just like 4 years in, and I was in my mid 30s, and it's not something when you kind of like studied a lot, where you kind of say, like, oh yeah, let's just jump off and try something, without like money or like kind of any prospect. So I was like, first, this is a cool product, but I'm not a type of, I wouldn't like be an entrepreneur. And I mean, I had worked for my job at the World Bank with a lot of entrepreneurs. So I saw people like how hard it is, that there's never like security. Also, like, I mean, that it was like they had a good year and then the next year there was no financing and then the company was gone. So I'm like, okay, I'm having a good safe job. I'm not like going anywhere, but I was intrigued by the product and I just started doing research on the side after, kind of like, why is there like, why has no one invented anything? Why is this still like the same beanbag that came out 30 years ago? And there were lots of medical studies. And I'm like, interesting. Like all the people, and like you went to all these forums and people are raving about it. It changed their life, they're sleeping. But they had the same issue that I had. It just made them really hot. And I couldn't find any product that was like not a bean bag and that had like these plastic beads that just, if you have 15 pounds of plastic beads on top of you, it's just like a sweaty situation. And then kind of I worked on a prototype, and I actually had my mom, who's a really good knitter, who also, when I grew up, did all my homework and house projects that I had to do in German school. You have to do all these knitting projects. And then she said, like, why don't we try something with cotton, like where you just take a roll of cotton and you will also get to 15, 20 pounds. And we knit like these heavy yarns together. And then we had like a small mini blanket. And as soon as I had like this mini blanket, I went to my boss and asked her like if I could take a year off just to try get it off the ground. And she actually really liked the idea and said like, look, if it doesn't work out, you just come back and we make a case study for the World Bank out of it, how not to do it. And then I'm like, okay, it doesn't feel like too much of a risk. I'm like, yeah, obviously I took all my retirement savings. It was like $120,000. And I'm like, okay, I have to probably retire later if this doesn't work out to get that money back. But it was like, now it's a risk I'm willing to take. And that's kind of how it started.
That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell. People talk about, like, I think if you look up the definition of entrepreneur, it's like a business owner who's willing to take a risk, something like that. And man, retirement savings, like that'd be a really tough decision. How did you, I guess, how did you get yourself mentally to be comfortable with, quote unquote, delaying your retirement?
So I think what's important is that you set yourself like a time limit. So for me, it was always a year. And in that year, I wouldn't make any decisions. I wouldn't kind of, if things would go bad, I would go back, or like maybe if things wouldn't have worked out 1 year in, then kind of, oh yeah, it's 5 years in, I still haven't made any profit and I'm still here. That's important to have, like, okay, how much does the money actually last that you have? Kind of what's the, maybe have a plan B after that 1 year. And for me, plan B was, okay, I can go back to my old job. So it's not like something where I'm like, living under a bridge. Eventually, I knew it would be a change in lifestyle, because then it's a time when, like all your friends making major progress in their career, like they're getting the promotions, and it's kind of where people start, going to nice holidays, having nice cars, and then you're kind of back almost into like pre-college time when you're eating mac and cheese and you can't go to dinners anymore, and you're not having any fancy vacations. In fact, you don't have actually vacations at all, because you're just like working non-stop because you're working against the clock, right? You need to get the product out, your money is shrinking, you need a proof of concept. So I think just being like mentally, and I think I knew it would be tough, but I think also the first year was, I never thought how tough it really would be to get the first prototype out. Made tons of mistakes, almost went back to my job because I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. I think just being mentally prepared that it's not easy. It's a rough patch, and people will also think you're crazy, because I mean, I was mid 30s, I had a good job, and people are like, "What? You're selling heavy blankets on the internet? What happened? What's wrong with you?" So there were definitely a lot of questions that I got from family, from friends. Even now, friends are coming and said, "I didn't want to say it in your face back then, but we thought you're completely cuckoo." Like moving everything, like just quitting from one day to the other just to do something that no one even knew about what a weighted blanket was back in the day.
Well, it's got to make you feel good when your friends call you cuckoo and say what's wrong with you. It's pretty ironic if you kind of zoom out, because you're working on creating a product at the time that is like stress relieving, stress reducing, yet it's causing you so much stress in creating it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always this thinking, like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm sitting in a cool coffee shop, I have like flexibility, I can work from anywhere in the world, and I'm on the beach somewhere. I mean, I know there's a lot of people have like that thinking. I think at the end you need to like just be prepared that probably like the first couple of years, if you are already stressed, it's probably not the right path to go down. But then I think afterwards it gets easier, and there are a lot of other things obviously that are really rewarding, that keep you going. But yeah, it's pretty ironic that I actually slept less definitely than when I was working full time.
You were just doing kind of like your own research of like your own focus group of like, here's somebody who needs more sleep. How did you start? I mean, you mentioned your mom has been good at knitting. What did it look like coming up with the first prototypes and then the first product that you were like actually proud about selling to the public?
So the initial iteration really was in the kitchen, my mom's kitchen table, where we just laid out and kind of tried to do different prototypes with my mom's sewing machine, and we tried to kind of get the yarn into like the right weight, and like make it chunky, make it heavy, but also make it breathable. So you're trying like different fabrics, you're cutting, so it's very hands-on. And then the next step is where my mom is like, "Okay, I'm out. Here's the mini blanket. Now do your thing." And that's when I was like, okay, I'm calling a manufacturer, and I'm like, I have this idea. I have this heavy blanket. It's made out of jersey yarn, single jersey knit yarn. They're like, never heard about this before. We try to make bed blankets to waist light and breathable and airy. We don't want to make them heavy, and we don't have that type of fabric. And I think I got like 50 no's along the way, where people are like, we don't know who you are and what this product is. And that's also when I realized, okay, I need to get to a certain level on my own. So we rented a small garage and we had our own knitting machine. So I started with 2 knitting machines and 5 knitters, and we made 800 blankets for the launch. And I thought like these 800 blankets, they would last a year. That was in my calculation, should get us through. But we got to like the prototype, like when we launched those, it was really where I'm like, okay, we did so many iterations, and like by then we had built our own machines, where you knew like there's so much knowledge that goes into it, that like I could like sleep at night and knew exactly how I would knit the blankets and like what goes into each and every size. But yeah, we sold out within like 2 weeks. And that's kind of when I already realized, okay, how do we get the next 800 blankets? It just took us like a year to build these 800. Yeah, we had a immediate success and people loved it and wanted to order more. And yeah, we had sold out in 2 weeks.
Well, congrats. That's a phenomenal 2 weeks. What do you think led to that such a quick and impressive great sales of those 800?
By that time, people, especially like in wellness and health conscious people, had heard about weighted blankets. So when we came to the market, which was like end of 2018, we wouldn't have to explain everyone like the basics anymore. Like, okay, this is what a weighted blanket does. Yes, we still had customers, but we had a lot of these first customers who wanted to upgrade to like a blanket. They already were convinced, okay, when I'm sleeping on a weighted blanket, I sleep deeper, I sleep longer, but I'm getting hot. And we came and we solved an issue that all the people who had weighted blankets wanted to solve. So that was, I think, just coming up with a better product. And then I think the look of it also mattered, because before people were like, oh, this medical gray weighted blankets, they should be in a pharmacy, but they're not in a Nordstrom or they're not in a West Elm. But when we launched it and we had all these beautiful colors, home interior colors, really poppy colors, like just within 5 months, like one morning I woke up and I had an email from West Elm in my inbox. We're like, oh, we want to come to your showroom. We were looking into weighted blankets and yours are really beautiful. So I think the functionality and like just the visual, like, oh, something like this we've never seen before and it looks actually pretty and still is functional, was like what a lot of people were waiting for. And we came in the right time to the market.
Yeah, that's something that I think gets overlooked with startups and entrepreneurs. Like we've had a lot of fellow entrepreneurs on this show talk about, like a wide range of products. And like it always goes back to like hands down first, like you need a really high quality product. Like you need a product that is people, can't wait to get their hands on and can't wait to buy. And so that was obviously essential for you as well. Now, getting West Elm, email from West Elm so quickly is amazing. Like that's an amazing thing for the business. But on the flip side of that, like you mentioned, going from kind of doing these by hand in the initial 800, and you thought it was going to last you a year, and then you have to get into like scale mode really quick. So there was some serious, I'm sure, like growing pains with the business that you had to figure out quick. How did you do that and kind of move to that next level, right? So quickly.
I mean, it wasn't quickly. I mean, I think now it feels maybe that, but the struggle definitely was, okay, first getting into the garage, then how do we get out of the garage and scale? And the next round, when we tried to find an external manufacturer, I could at least say like, well, we sold 800 blankets in 2 weeks. And I can actually place a bigger order with you right up front versus like, well, I'm developing this prototype. I don't know yet. There's nothing out there. We don't have a website. So by that stage, when I went back to the manufacturers, we already kind of looked, at least from the outside. I think that's also like when West Ham thought we had a showroom. We didn't have a showroom. We were like two people still in a garage, but like it looked kind of like that we are a proper business. So I think then like that helps to get like the credibility where people are taking on a big of a risk to say like, okay, we're investing in some of these new machines and we're training people to bring a new product that only is your line. It's not like sheets where we're already making sheets. We can like slap your label on, here you go. But it's really an investment that the manufacturer also had to take. So that the initial proof of concept point where like we can place a bigger order definitely helped to get like these scaling issues. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I went like from point to point where I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out warehousing. We need to find a bigger warehouse. So sometimes I was just calling up like people I knew and say like, do you have a referral? or like I cold email people, and you're surprised how many people actually come back, and like entrepreneurs helping, willing to lend a hand and say like, look, I work with this supplier. But I think you just need to be really be open to be vulnerable and say like, you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of like rejection, and being okay with it and just kind of doing it anyways. And better like fail fast than not failing at all and never doing anything and looking back and saying like, I wish I had done that.
Speaking of being vulnerable, you're in a product space that I think was, I mean, it seems like it was kind of starting to gain momentum, but like you really went all in on a space where obviously historically everybody knows blankets, but weighted blankets maybe not as much. How did you carve a name for yourself and like really be, become like the leader in such a specific space like that?
I think it was definitely like having a different product, a differentiated product. And then I also knew that when we didn't have any external funding, I bootstrapped the company. And I also knew if like a bigger company would come, and like we would be very quickly, like no one would remember Bearaby, but everyone would remember the bigger company. So what we did is like we tried to have marketing that is like, I don't know if you can call it guerrilla style marketing, but for example, one of the things I did is like finding Netflix designers. Like there are always a handful of people, and these are the same people who design the sets of each Netflix show, and they're always looking for product. There's product placement, which is very expensive. If you see Coke or Pepsi, they've paid a lot of money to have those in these shows. But when you go and say like, hey, you need a blanket in that color, whenever you need it, I send you one for free, and then you don't have anything to say where the product will be placed. But we got lucky in like a couple of those who were like in the sequel of Sex in the City, where the blanket was used, with Cynthia Nixon. And then we had Murders in the House with Steve Martin having a whole scene around it. So I think very quickly, like people started associating the product. And then like, I think in 2019, I knew there was like Oprah's favorite things, where in June, everyone stands in a line and hands their product in hopes that like they're, you put a nice letter in and put the best packaging you can find on it. And then we also made a list. So we really tried to find like ways that didn't cost us much, but where it's harder that, for the second, like it's always harder for the second to get like a placement. So when you're the first mover in the market, you need to really move fast so that someone who has more resources can't like overtake you. And we try to really find these right spots and occupy like these niches with relatively less budget.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Netflix marketing. Yeah, it's like guerrilla marketing. It's really smart PR. Like, yeah, you were way ahead of the curve in terms of being in those places that obviously, people watch and see all the time now and have huge audiences. So it's really smart in the partnering sense. If you were to zoom out and look back now, besides having a great product and being a first mover, what else would you say is just kind of like a big driver of the, success Bearaby has had through today?
Like for us, kind of just thinking like whatever the category is doing, you do the opposite. And you're imagining also things that haven't existed in the past. So all the blankets were gray, they were very medically positioned. So we were very loud. We did exactly like the opposite. We didn't position medical. We just put like design, like something that you want to have on your couch. And then we're like thinking like all the markets that put a product in the bedroom because weighted blankets are in the bed. And we're like, okay, what if we make them couch worthy and you actually position the product outside of the bed? So I think like just leaning in and seeing like what is everyone doing right now, and then you just do exactly the opposite, and you really lean in, and then hope for the best. And in our case, it worked out.
Hope for the best. Words to live. Words to entrepreneur by. So I'm going to throw the opposite at you. Keep you on your toes here. I'm curious, like, I'm somebody probably like many when they first heard about weighted blankets, they're kind of like, that's interesting, but like, what's it actually do? But I'd love to hear like, you can get as medical or non-medical as you want, but I'm curious overall, just like the benefits of having like the weighted aspect to a blanket as opposed to traditional blankets.
Nowadays, people are much more familiar with cortisol and high cortisol levels than like probably like when I started 5 years ago, and people are overall, I think, more health conscious and hormone conscious. But we have studies that show when you sleep under 10% of your body weight, your nighttime cortisol gets reduced faster. And that's also when you what basically translates into deeper sleep. So people like that track their sleep, they see up to 30-40% increase in like deep sleep phases, and that's directly related to cortisol level. And the faster you can get your cortisol level reduced, ideally before midnight, that's because when the deep sleep is setting in, when you have most of your deep sleep and REM sleep phases. But I think just to make it a bit like more maybe easier to describe, it's the feeling of a hug. And like the nervous system, like when the nervous system feels safe, that's kind of when deep sleep kicks in. And like most people, like I mean all of us, not only entrepreneurs, are like stressed, like we're constantly on our phones, there's always like new information, new things going on. So like there's very few like people who really have a fully regulated nervous system. So we need these extra things that help to bring the nervous system calm. Obviously there are many things that you can do, but weighted blankets are one of them. So when you put yourself into that cocoon and your body feels like these extra weights, the nervous system can relax, is relaxing faster and triggers the cortisol release.
I like that a lot. You found a way to put a hug into a product form.
Yeah.
Even just hearing the word hug has such a positive
Mhm.
feeling to it, and it's relaxing to think about. What about on the, going back to the very start, on the nap side of things? What's the benefit of actually having like an effective nap?
You should nap for 4 hours because
Every day,
yeah,
morning and night. No.
most people cannot sleep after like a 4 hour nap. But what's really good for you is like a 20-minute nap. Again, it's about like the sleep pressure that builds up during the day. And then there's like just around like 2 p.m., it's just naturally in our cycles that we have like a low period. It's like where you're not productive. Most people, like when you have at your desk, you're just sitting there, but you know, like, okay, I'm actually not, my brain is not there. So like a nap is also like something that just regulates your nervous system and right, kind of gets you into like the blue zone if you're sleep tracking. And then like afterwards I mean, when you wake up after a nap, if it's a good nap, you should be relaxed, you should have a clear mind. Actually your mood should also improve, because you're resetting through sleep. So if you can squeeze in like these naps, like 20-40 minutes a day, you have a happy life.
Yeah, naps are happy, hugs are happy. It's pretty cool, mind blowing in the best way. Thinking about like all you've built with Bearaby and kind of your expertise in this topic now, and then think of like your previous career at World Bank and as an economist, and like it's such a different world. I guess how did you like go all in and decide like, look, I'm gonna learn like the benefits of napping and benefits of weighted blankets and that side of thing? Like how did you go all in such a different space?
It's like I've always been curious. I like to learn. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to learn a lot. And now also like now that I'm like in the first year, I'm customer service, I'm quality control, I'm manufacturing, I'm marketing, I'm everything. So you really learn a lot. So it's something I really enjoy. And I think now even that I'm not like the one who's like doing customer service, at least not like all the time, I can still have like the flexibility to decide like what are the things I want to bring into the market, like who are the people I want to work with, how do we want to design our office, how do we want to decide our hours, how we're working as a group. It kind of gives you a lot of like freedom to decide. And when I was like an employee, I think I had a great job. I was traveling a lot. I saw a lot of countries, but it's still different. Like I'm still reporting to someone. There's some external like goals that are given that maybe are sometimes slow, and I don't have like that much impact if we reach the goal or if we don't. I think there were a lot of things that like drew me into like the thing of just making something happen. And then you see like you have an idea in your head, and like a year later you have the finished product in front of you, and then people like using it and loving it. I think that's like the best feeling that you can have, and something I never experienced in the same way when I was like an employee.
Yeah, that learning and that curiosity. I always think back to my freshman year of college. We took one of the classes had us take like strengths finders or one of those personality tests. The results I got back were like you're a learner, like you like learning. Like I was always pretty good at school, so it made sense. But I was kind of like, huh, okay, what does that mean for like life and career then? If you just like it's like, am I just gonna like read and be curious all the time. Which, spoiler alert, I should read way more than I do.
But yeah, I think there's sometimes like they're always like the people who are good at math, and then like they go like a certain path, just like that is like relatively like safe that you're having a good career. But then like when I did one of the tests, like someone said you're good at putting concepts together. You're like the one in the group who connected the dots. But I'm like, what career is that? You know, what do I?
A dot connector, a professional dot
I'm
connector.
a professional dot connector, but like just much later now that I'm kind of like in a role where we're developing new products or we're looking at campaigns and concepts. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm talking with the different people. I'm like, let's talk to this person. I have an idea here. And like, I'm kind of connecting the dots, which I think entrepreneurs at the end is someone as a glorified dot connector at the end. But like when you're 18, you're just in high school and you're like good at kind of bringing things together. You don't really know what type of career that is, and it's not a red line, if that makes sense. It's just something that you realize later, which is not as straightforward as math, for example.
Glorified dot connector, if I could pronounce it right. GDC, we'll coin that. So,
DDC, yeah.
well, speaking of personality and personality tests, we're gonna wrap up with a couple quick segments, a little bit goofier. These are more just kind of to get to know you as a person and more about your personality. Certainly doesn't have to tie back to the business at all, but you're welcome to. First one I call the unusual: pet peeves, quirks, weird talents. We'll start with weird talents. What's like I call them weird talents, but it's like a party trick or something that you're good at, but it really doesn't impact your job at all. It's just like a little like talent you have.
I make like little puppets by hand, and I make like little puppet shows for like not for kids but for adults. So whenever friends are coming over, I have like little shows with puppets, and I make like stories up for like before like a party gets started.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's one of the most creative things I've ever heard. Up to you how, in depth you want to go. We are rated explicit, but you say puppet show for adults. Mine's go in a certain
But it's
direction.
not,
Can you
it's
give us an
not real.
example?
No, like I have like it's actually like it's little animals, and I have like characters for them, and they have like their own also social profiles, and I would like take pictures of like parties, or then they would post pictures. It's more like a satire comedy where it's you make fun of some people where like their pet peeves and kind of like, and then I work this in a little show, and then later on I post those on like their Instagram, or I make like a funny comment on it. It started more like between friends, and then I had like all these fake profiles with a rabbit, and the rabbit was like doing all these different things that like the person did in real life. So they were at a coffee shop, and then the bunny was at the coffee shop, and so yeah, it became like a little account that I made and kind of like with friends. Now I unfortunately don't do it as much anymore, but I still do my puppet shows.
Oh my God, congrats on that. That's the best side hustle I've ever heard.
It's my next job will be like just becoming a puppet creator.
All right, you mentioned pet peeves. What's a pet peeve you have? Something that kind of ticks you off, but really it's not a big deal in life.
I think as a German, I like structure and order. So like I think I get ticked off when like people are not waiting in line, or when kind of like things are in chaos. I like things organized. So yeah, I had like yeah, a couple of times where like people are just like, for example, I was just in Japan, and it's such a blessing when people are like in the metro, and it's like there's just people are waiting, and one by one goes, and it's not someone like where you have to press and you have to push, like when I'm, for example, in India or like in China, and it's just like everything is like people are pressing, and at the airport it's all chaos. So yeah, I like my structure and order.
That's a great one. I like things organized as well. On since you said it, on the German note, or the German stereotype, if you will, of liking things organized and structured. The first time I was in Berlin, and the first time I looked at the map of like the metro and all the different stops, I'm like, this is the most organized, like symmetrical thing I've ever seen. Now I couldn't pronounce any of the words, but
I think we're trying, yeah. Though I think it's like Berlin is pretty organized when it comes to the metro. Yeah, almost like London.
all right. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Yeah.
All right, let's get wild. I'm going to ask your puppet rabbit to answer the. No, I'm just kidding. What is a tip you have or you got from your mom about knitting?
Knitting itself is so predictable. I don't think there's anything like on knitting you can change. I mean, like definitely what I learned from my mom is how you can like take regular knitting with like a very thin yarn and suddenly like blow it up or make it like in a huge heavy yarn and then turn this into actually like knitting. So I think thinking outside of the box when you think about a very tiny yarn that you usually knit a sock or like a piece of clothing, and then like how this can turn into like a completely different product, and having like the idea and experimentation around that.
All right. What is something from the world of like the World Bank or being an economist that you think the average person would be shocked to know?
Like how little funding like small and medium sized enterprises are getting, and also women entrepreneurs, it's less than 2% in like the developing world, and it has been like ever since. So I think that's something that at least surprised me, how difficult it is for small and medium sized business to get access to that funding, and how hard it is to actually like get that going for people to get access to loans to get to grow their businesses.
Yeah, that's a dark but true one. Yeah, it's like some stats have improved over the years, and then other areas it's like they still have so far to go. So that's an important one. All right, so you have traveled pretty much everywhere around the world and to Mars and back and to Pluto. What's your best like travel hack?
First of all, bring your own pillow. Now I have even a customized pillow that I take everywhere. Weighted blanket. I sometimes bring my weighted blanket, but it's a heavy one, so it's not too easy to take across if you're flying for like multiple segments. And then I always like to have a magnesium, like especially when you have jet lag, you take like a bit of magnesium and glycine, and you won't have jet lag.
Mm. That's good to know because yeah, those long flights, the jet lag. I don't know. Like if you never experienced jet lag and then the first time you do, it's just like, whoa, this is great. Like I don't know if my circadian rhythm is ever going to get back. So that's good to know. All right, and then last one. I mean, I'm a sucker for German food and food in general, so I always ask about food. But in your case and upbringing, I'm curious. What's like a German food you must try that's maybe doesn't get as much of the spotlight as like bratwurst and potatoes and schnitzel and all that?
Kaiserschmarrn is like a specific like pancake with like a plum compote. That's a good one. And then if you like the potatoes, also go for the potato salad, especially like in south of Germany. Potato salad is really good.
Oh yeah, it's so good, and it makes you think. I don't. I mean, sometimes, like even like the grocery stores here in the States, you'll see like German potato salad, but it's. I wonder how close it is to actual
It's
German potato
no,
salad.
it's not. It's not the same. It's like in the U.S. it's made with mayonnaise, and in Germany it's made with like vinegar and like bone broth and like oil and different herbs. So it has a very different taste.
Yeah, my family fell in love. One of the big German and Prague trip we did as a family. My family fell in love with how do you say it? Spätzle?
Spätzle.
Spätzle? Yeah. In Frankfurt, they said it was like the best they ever
Oh
had.
my God, yeah, I forgot about that. Actually, yes, Spätzle is even my number one. Yeah. I
Yeah, it's
forgot, I
so good.
totally forgot because that's also from my area where I come from. My mom makes amazing Spätzle.
All right. Well, now I'm not only craving a 4 hour nap, but I'm craving homemade Spätzle as well. So, Kathrin, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. Really appreciate your time and all you do and helping people nap and sleep and feel hugged more. So that's a pretty cool mission you're behind. I know if anybody wants to learn more, they can do so at Bearaby.com. And I know you're on LinkedIn. Is there anywhere else that you want to shout out if they want to connect with you online?
I mean, LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me. And then if you want to learn more about Bearaby, on our Instagram is my Bearaby and the website is bearaby.com. So that's great.
Awesome. Thank you. A virtual hug all around. Last thing, final thoughts. It could be a quote or just kind of words to live by. Just one line, send us home here.
If you're on the verge of like, and you're asking yourself, should I start a business? or should I hold on to the job? Just imagine you're 70 and you look back at your life, and would you still ask yourself the question, what would have been if I would have done it? And if you think you cannot let go of it, then give it a try.
That give it a try philosophy is a great approach for naps as well. Kathrin, thank you so much. Thank you, Bearaby. Thank you, Wild listeners, for tuning in. I don't know about you, but I am so excited to go take a nap. And I hope you enjoy your nap too. And maybe you'll dream sweet dreams of maxpodcasting.com as you close your eyes. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!